using the quadratic formula. So when you have a quadratic equation in standard form, you can use the quadratic formula to solve. This right here is pretty much the key idea of everything we're doing today. So, a quadratic equation in standard form looks like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's in standard form, and you want to have it in standard form when you're putting your numbers into the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. It sounds difficult, and to some degree it is a little tricky, but it's actually not as hard as you may think. So it's all you have to really do is plug your numbers from your equation in here and just solve it. So here are a few examples of that. I'm going to start with one that's fairly simple. 2x squared minus 7x plus 5 equals 0. It's a good practice to define your a, b, and c for the quadratic formula. It just might help ensure that you don't make mistakes you could have avoided. B equals negative 7, c equals 5, and they all come from right here, a, b, c. So, keeping our quadratic formula in mind, which is x equals opposite of b, in this case it would be positive 7, plus or minus square root of b squared, negative 7 squared, and then we have minus 4 times 2 times 5. And all of this is over 2 times a, which is 2. So now we pretty much just solve, which isn't going to be that difficult. 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 4 times 2 is 8 times 5 is 40, all divided by 4. And then we're going to just simplify this. Again, 7 plus or minus the square root of 9 divided by 4. So the square root of 9 is 3. 7 plus or minus 3 divided by 4. So we can end up, I'm going to write this 7/4 plus or minus 3/4. Now the way we're going to get our solution, there will actually be 2 because of this plus or minus, so solutions, is just to do both options. If we do a plus, 7/4 plus 3/4, that will get us 10/4, or, let's see, 4.5, right? 8/4. Actually, no, sorry, 2.5. If you can read that, that's a 2, 2.5. And, or we can also have 7/4 minus 3/4, which is going to equal 1. So our solutions could be, let's see, x equals, we'll put it in set notation, 2.5, 1, because both will work. Both are solutions to this quadratic equation. I'm going to go through another one. Example 2. 5x squared minus 6x plus 2 equals 0. So, same thing, let's define real quick. A equals 5, b equals negative 6, c equals 2. So the opposite the opposite of b is 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times 5 times 2 divided by 2 times 5. Simplify. 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 5 is 20 times 2 is 40 divided by 10. And 6 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, negative 4. So we're going to come up with an imaginary solution, but that's alright. Doesn't matter. That still will work. We're just going to go 6 plus or minus 2i, because we can split the 4 into negative 1 times 4. Negative 1, square root of negative 1 can be written as I. The square root of 4 is 2, divided by 10. So 6 over 10 plus 2i over 10 is one possible solution, and 6 over 10 minus 2i over 10 is the other possible solution. They will both work in this quadratic equation. Our last example, use the quadratic formula to solve. That's what we've been doing this whole time. But look, this one isn't in standard form. So we're going to make it that way. We'll do it off to the side here so we have room when we get to using the quadratic formula. X squared equals 5 plus 4x minus x squared minus x squared 0 equal minus x squared plus 4x plus 5. I'm just rearranging my terms a little bit, but that is in standard form. Over here, let's define our a as negative 1, our b as 4, and our c as 5. So, opposite of b, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times 5 divided by 2 times negative 1. Simplify. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 4 times negative 1 is negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. We can, it would be minus a negative 20, which is the same as plus a positive 20, all divided by negative 2. So, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 36 divided by negative 2. The square root of 36 is 6, negative 4, plus or minus 6 divided by negative 2. And then we're just going to have negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2 plus or minus negative 3. So we can have either 2 plus negative 3, which is negative 1. 2 plus negative 3 equals negative 1. Or 2 minus negative 3, which is the same as plus, which would be 5. So our solution set would be x equal negative 1, 5. Both are solutions to this quadratic equation. So memorize the formula, define your terms, make sure it's in standard form, Remember, you should always have a 0 on one side and then just rearrange the terms so you can remember A, B, and C. Define your A, B, and C, plug them into the formula, and then simplify, solve, and you have your solutions.